Startup Grind Global is the ultimate startup experience. Tech teams building the next big thing. Right now, startups from all over the world are descending upon Silicon Valley for an annual conference. Not only are we right in the middle of it, today we're going to give you a behind the scenes look, an inside perspective at the prep work underway and what to expect. Expert Connections starts now. Welcome to Expert Connections, where today we are taking you behind the scenes for a look at Startup Grind Global 2024. I'm Julie Holton. I'm so glad you are here. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. You are not going to want to miss a single episode this week as we come to you from Silicon Valley. Okay, so today our expert is taking time away from the busy prep work at this global conference to give us an insider's perspective, an exclusive look at all of the work underway and what to expect throughout the week. James, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here.
You have been working on this conference for months now. First, give us a little taste, like, who are you? What's your title? What are you working on?
I moved over to Silicon Valley in October. As you can tell, my accent, I'm from the UK. And I joined the startup HQ team back then to work on the partnerships team, which is basically, bringing in new sponsors, new partners, people that we want to align with that have, a vested interest in startups themselves, selling products or services in a way that can benefit our startups, right? We work with so many different startups across every different industry, across, 100 countries around the world. So at every stage that they're at, they're looking for some kind of assistance, they're looking for some help in order to kind of prosper and propel them forward. So I've come in to do that, but since being on the ground here, I am actually probably the only person on the ground in Silicon Valley, apart from Derek, who, as you know, is our founder and CEO and runs a couple of different startups. So he's busy working away and managing that. I'm on the ground, running around, doing different events that I go to, whether I'm speaking at events. I was at an AI conference last week, which, I don't know much about AI, but I was on stage with a lot of AI leaders talking about the conference and about community and what we can bring and how amazing our lineup of speakers are this year. We've got some incredible AI leaders. We have 22 different AI sessions across the 2 days, 3 different stages. We have 29, I think, AI startups that are exhibiting. So I'm busy running around, meeting amazing founders, meeting investors, whilst also trying to meet partners and bring them in and welcome them into what Startup Grind is, the community, the conference, and I just, spread the word.
For a quick moment, let's talk about what Startup Grind is, because for those who may not be familiar yet with Startup Grind was founded essentially in Derek's garage, Derek Anderson, the founder, CEO of Startup Grind, and really was a way, as all startups know, you can feel isolated, you can feel siloed, you can feel like you are alone in the journey, when in fact, there are many other people who are in their stages of their journey, doing the same thing you are, just in their own silo. So Derek's whole goal was to bring startups, bring founders together. And over the years, over the last 11 years or so, that has evolved into really what you just described that you focus on, the partnerships, the sponsors, the resources. That's one of the phenomenal things about Startup Grind is its ability to connect startup founders who are literally all over the world with the resources and support that they need. Can you talk a little bit about the sponsorships and partnerships?
Yeah, you just articulated it very well. That it's amazing. I'm obviously very new to this community, so it's been going for 14 years, and as you say, it was born out of a meeting in his garage. Talking about how to be a founder, overcoming the different obstacles of being a founder. And I've actually been a founder myself, so I've come from a career in banking and finance in the UK, which is very different to what I'm doing now. But I actually launched my own startup in 2015, and with a friend, and it didn't work out. But I went through the ups and downs of being a founder, and one thing that I kind of lessons learned from that was, we didn't really have, and I didn't know about Startup Grind then, but we didn't really have a community to rely on or to ask for advice. And I think the main kind of takeaway that I've seen from events that either we've hosted here in Silicon Valley or I've been to a couple in the UK, and I've heard of many different people going to many different cities around the world and going to startup grind events, is that it's all about kind of connections and education and helping each other. No one's really in this to kind of take advantage of anybody. Different founders are at different stages, right? And they can all pass on different bits of advice to each other, whether you're Series A or you're pre-seed. And I meet so many founders out here, and it's completely the same. I mean, Silicon Valley is different, but it's the same prospect of different stages, different founders, sorry, at different stages are looking just to kind of do well and succeed, right? And so many startups don't. So Startup Grind is definitely a way of and a platform to meet other entrepreneurs, other investors that are able to help you in some way. Not every investor invests in a startup. Not every startup raises 10 million from the first meeting they have, but they go to these events to feel part of a community that they know is going to look after them and is going to provide some kind of benefit and value to their journey.
And I think the vibe that people can expect this week at Startup Grind Global is really one of the core values of Startup Grind, which is friends first. Oftentimes when business owners, entrepreneurs, startups are a part of associations or networking groups, it really is business first. It's how, what can you do for me? I should say I'm, co-director of the Lansing chapter in Lansing, Michigan, part of the HQ team this week. I'm just working on media and coordinating media for the conference. But when I first started out just as someone attending events in Lansing, 5 or 6 years ago, I thought, okay, well, everyone says friends first. Like everyone says that they have these core values of being good people. And I have to say, this is something that is woven through the fabric of every single person you meet at a Startup Grind event. It doesn't matter who they are, where they've come from. In fact, the speakers who will be there this week, everyone really lives and breathes this as a part of their, I would say, what drives them within the startup community.
I'm going to give you a quick story about the impact of Startup Grind worldwide, right? So I went to a private dinner, in San Francisco about a month ago. And I didn't know anybody else around the table apart from the host. And he kindly invited 10 of us to come to dinner to network and meet each other. And basically, I remember arriving and I had to introduce myself and said, I'm James from Startup Grind. And this lady that was sat next to me was like, oh my God, Startup Grind. And she just loved Startup Grind and told me that she'd been to this amazing event in Moldova, right, which is an Eastern European country. And I obviously didn't know that there was a chapter in Moldova. There might be more. And she said, oh, I had such an amazing time in Moldova at the Startup Grind event. And I obviously have no idea, what that event was, what they did, but it just shows the impact of Startup Grind worldwide across every different corner of the world. So that was just a snippet of just somebody who's given me great feedback, and it's great. And I then went on to say, oh yeah, Startup Grind, we're active in 300 cities around the world. And she said, I'm sure it's a lot more than that. So don't quote me on that number. So yeah, just to then come back to the conference. So what's quite surreal for me this week, and this, building up to this. So I moved over I live in the Bay Area, South Bay, have done since October. So finding my feet still. And I've been working on, the Startup Grind Global Conference for a number of months now, as is the whole team, and we kind of build up to this. This is our Super Bowl for the year, and we as a team, an HQ team, which you're joining this next week, we are very small. So there's only kind of a handful of us, 10 of us are from around the world that work on this conference, and we're all here this week, which is very amazing, but also very surreal that I've now met my colleagues that I've been speaking to for 7 months every day about this conference, who are now in person and sat in the next room here. So that's number one, is really exciting and really great that it shows all the minds and what everyone's working on. Everybody's kind of working, 16-hour days, 100 miles an hour, trying to get everything sorted. We're now on the ground here in Redwood City, so we're in a nice office just around the corner from where the Fox Theatre is, where the main stage is. And then what's already erected is the main kind of sponsor tent opposite the theatre, which this is very much, and I've been given this feedback by a lot of people that have been multiple times before, that it's very authentic, right? And that's, the original authentic. And I think that's great, because that's how I kind of work in life as well. I like having that feeling, and that's what they describe it as. It's it's a scrappy kind of startup grind event, but just on a massive scale. There's thousands of people here. Everybody's dying to speak to each other, trying to network, trying to not do business, as you say, make friends, right? And it's all about that community. So being here on the ground, building up to what is the event next Tuesday and Wednesday, is actually really exciting. And as I say, it's long days, but we are all working really hard behind the scenes to do all the small things that you can imagine. So whether it's tickets, whether it's setting up investor and startup meetings, which is a great thing for us this year. We've got 400 plus investors. We've got 141 exhibiting startups, and we are basically matchmaking them together. So we're setting up curated one-on-one half-an-hour meetings in the startup tent for value add to both sides, right? If you're an AI investor and you're an AI startup, rather than wasting or speaking to somebody that might not be in your kind of wheelhouse, we're basically connecting you two together and saying, okay, AI investor over here, AI startup, you guys should meet, right? And they're going to have a curated half-an-hour session at a table in the startup tent. And I think if I was a founder, or if I was an investor, by that matter, that would be really good for me. If I have one meeting, and it might be the next best thing, and I've found them at Startup Grind Global Conference, then I probably need to buy that person a drink.
And so many success stories like you're describing do come out of the conference. I'll link to that in the show notes so people can see some of those success stories from last year, from years prior. It really, and I love how you describe it, James, as, kind of the scrappy, because it really is. It's all levels. It is people from that still are in the idea phase who are just there to talk to other people, all the way on up. But not only is it scrappy, you could turn around and meet the person next to you, and it could be like someone who's on your list who you never thought you'd be rubbing elbows with, that you just happened to bump into at Startup Grind Global Conference. It's just I'm excited to get there. I get on a plane in less than 24 hours. By the time this airs, I will be with you, meeting you in person, which will be phenomenal. Before we go, James, let's just give people a taste of some of the speakers that we will be highlighting here on Expert Connections throughout the week. Who are you looking forward to? I know you're going to be tied up like working and that, but that aside, who are you excited about that's going to be at the conference?
I love the fact that you agreed to the scrappy word that I described it as. I didn't mean to undersell it as scrappy, but I'm glad that you agree. So,
well, I mean, I think most startups feel, even no matter how far they are, you could be, 8 years into the process and it's still scrappy at times.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So then to come on to speakers. So what's funny about this is, so yesterday we were all working here, and we're all staying. So the guys are staying in an Airbnb, the girls are staying in another Airbnb. And so we got home last night, and me and a couple of the other guys just had a drink and just trying to wind down a little bit. And we started talking about, just the conference itself. And, a couple of the guys have been multiple times and they've been on the team for ages. I'm obviously never been before, but I'm kind of working hard at it. So I actually said to them, so, the main stage, we have all these amazing speakers. We have the breakout stage. We have these amazing speakers. I said, what's your job during the day? I know what my job is going to be, but, everyone's doing different things and running around. And Naman, who's on kind of the startup and partnerships team as well, he said last year he had one session that he wanted to view, right, and attend. And he managed to do that. But that was the only session out of the whole 2 days that he got to see. So I can't attest to anyone that I am going to see, but I know last year, I think Derek interviewed Michael Johnson, who was my hero growing up. I was born in '87, so that the '96 Atlanta Olympics with the gold boots was my kind of thing that I remember, and he was my hero. And I used to run, and therefore he was my hero. I just didn't have the kind of upwards running style that Michael Johnson had. But anyway, so I missed that. But obviously, if I was there last year, that would have been one that I would have sat down and watched. I think this year, a massive draw to a lot of people coming on Wednesday evening, so that the last session is Gary Tan from YC. I think given his experience and what he's done and what they do as a kind of incubator, I think it's going to really relate to a lot of people at the event, not just the startups, obviously, but people in the ecosystem to see what's coming through, what his insights are from what they see. They have cohorts of startups coming through their program all the time, right? So I think his insights with Derek in that final session on Wednesday is something to stick around for. I just don't know where I'm going to be on Wednesday night and how tired I'm going to be, but I'm going to try and get into that main stage in the Fox Theatre and watch that last session.
Yes, we will clear the pathway for you to make sure you get there. Last year I loved the session with Vinod Khosla. I really feel like it helped to set the stage. Traveling in from Michigan, each year we bring a big cohort from Michigan-based startups. Oh. And it really seemed, from my perspective, leading the efforts here in the Capital Region, that his talk about AI and his insights into and his perspectives, his thoughts on what's ahead, really helped shape a lot of what we started an AI meetup, a monthly meetup that started, almost a year ago now. So many things came out of last year's conference. I'm actually, James, if you have time to stop by the breakout stage, you will see me. And so the fun part about my job is I get to interact with all of the speakers on the breakout stage as I MC over there. It means I will miss most of what happens on the main stage, but we take what we can, right? And it's all worth it to bring Startup Grind Global. Thank you for the work you're doing. I am excited to see it all come together. I'm excited. I know right now your colleagues from around the world are flying in. You've been the only one other than Derek, boots on the ground up until these last couple of days. And like you said, the fun part about having a global team is that right now people are flying in from all over the world. Part of the fun, actually, of Startup Grind. I just yesterday was talking with a director out of Israel, the day before out of Jordan, talking about different opportunities with startups that they're working with and how we can here. I talked to, folks back in the UK. So a lot of fun to be had.
Can I just give a shout out to somebody? Because, as I say, the team is kind of flown in from all parts of the world. But Bruce, who's our kind of technical head, has just landed this morning at 1 a.m., right? Having left 3 days ago from Cape Town, South Africa. He went via Dubai, and I don't know if you've seen what's happened in Dubai, but they've had like 18 months of rain in like 1 day. Anyway, the whole airport, the runway, everything was waterlogged and flooded. He managed to get on one of the 4 flights that got out yesterday. He then landed last night in SFO and didn't have any luggage, as in his luggage had gone missing. So he arrived. He's then lost his passport in the Uber to the Airbnb. Anyway, so I was up this morning at 6 a.m. and he's there badgering away on his laptop in our living room, trying to catch up on work. I mean, what a hero. So he's with me now. He's just gone to get his second coffee of the day. So
he's good for him, only on coffee number 2, because it's early-ish there right now as we're recording. Bruce, way to go. I saw the message in Slack when he departed. It feels like that was ages ago. So
well, fingers crossed for everyone else that's flying in, but I don't think anywhere else has had that rain. So
yes, well, safe travels to everyone coming in from across the world. James, thank you for taking time. We won't tell anyone, just our viewers, that you took time away for this. Appreciate the behind the scenes, and I will see you in a few days.
Looking forward to it.
That is all for this episode of Expert Connections. Stay tuned for stories all week long in our Startup Connections segment.